kind of harassment have you discovered?
Yeah, so I mean, we did this report and we interviewed about 50 or so students and academics across 16 universities in 6 states. And we documented cases of intimidation, censorship, surveillance, harassment. In 3 of the cases, we knew that family members back home in China were questioned by police about the students' activities in China. And these activities were things that were very innocuous, things like setting up a Twitter account, attending a pro-democracy Hong Kong protest, writing an assignment about Tibet. And so I think it's really concerning to know that, obviously there are people, on campus who are reporting on the activities of students clearly to the Chinese government. And this really creates a climate of fear. Some people say, oh, well, that's only 3 cases, but it only takes a handful of cases for students then to feel like they're constantly being watched and surveilled, and for them to self-censor their behaviour.
Oh, that's absolutely correct. You make an example of one and you terrify 100. I'm still surprised. You say only 3, but I'm surprised that you still managed to get 50 who dared to talk to you, which is a pretty impressive effort. Did you come across many that were too scared to speak?
Yes, we did. And, really Hong Kong's national security law has meant that, a number of students who initially said that they would speak to us, thought about it and then said, look, I can't talk to Human Rights Watch. These interviews were extremely difficult to get. They all took place through encrypted apps. People were obviously not willing to meet Human Rights Watch face to face because they're so scared about surveillance and they're so scared about the consequences for family members back home. So the interviews were with students, but also half of those interviews were with academics. And these were a mixture of academics from China, but also academics who have spoken out on China, who work in China studies. And, this, I guess, environment of self-censorship was really concerning that, some academics said to us, it's just not worth it to be raising sensitive topics anymore, like Hong Kong or Xinjiang. They're very worried about getting doxed, which is where personal information is shared online. We documented several cases of that, actually, where both students and academics had their personal information shared because of comments that they made critical of the Chinese government.
Elaine, really, this is so sad and frightening what you're describing. Did you get any sense that the Chinese embassy here is involved?
Well, the Chinese embassy has to be involved because, because Chinese police were interrogating the families of students and in some cases the students themselves when they returned to China. And, in some cases they had photographs of students' activities. So, if they'd attended a pro-democracy Hong Kong protest, there were photos that were provided to the family members, or they knew things that, the student said, I didn't tell that to my mother. So how did they know that? And they knew things about what had occurred on campus. So, clearly these activities are taking place. And, while I think some of the universities have been saying to us, well, this is really foreign interference, this is a matter for the government, a matter for Home Affairs. Yes, that's true. But I think there are steps that universities can also take to deter this behaviour. And I think, the problem is there haven't been a lot of consequences for students that have engaged in intimidating and harassing behaviour. And so I think it's really important that where these incidents arise, that universities actually speak out about these issues and that they draw a line and they say, look, in the classroom, it's perfectly okay to have different views. Not everyone has to agree. We can debate those views, but it is not okay to threaten someone with being reported to the Chinese consulate because they hold different views to you.
I think our government should get very tough on the Chinese embassy. That is just totally out of order for them to be a conduit for information to snoop and punish students here. But look, I think you're right, universities should do more, but I think that figure in your report, the Chinese students make up 10% of their admissions, so much money involved. I sometimes fear that they're compromised, they're being bought off by all that pot of gold.